And I think we are live. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the first live stream of 2024. I hope you guys had a happy holiday season. I hope you're starting off the new year right, following your dreams, chasing what you want. Today, I'm really excited for this live stream. I've had Zach on before. If you guys want to go check that out, you can go to. I have a playlist with the Star Wars Perspective podcast. I believe I wrote it down. Yeah, you're 19, episode 19, which is about a year ago. A lot of you guys know Zach. You maybe know him from YouTube as Gen 1 Productions, the director and creator of the Star Wars The Foretelling, and now the director, director and creator of Kestis. How's it going, man?
It's going great, man. It's a really busy season, but I'm really excited. There's we're closing in on the final product, and it's there. I watched the latest rough cut 2 nights ago, and I have one of those things where it's like when I'm proud of something, I just like start laughing, like I'm just so excited, and
Nice.
dude. By the end of that thing, I was just so proud of my guys, my team, and the cast and crew. And um, this is gonna be something special for the fan base, and it's something I'm really proud of. And uh, when the cast and crew gets to watch it, I think they'll be very proud as well.
Heck yeah, man. Heck yeah. For those who are listening, why don't you and watching, let them know when you're releasing it.
Yeah, so January 30th is when it drops on YouTube, and yeah, it'll be free. It'll I'll be announcing this formally on all the socials next week, but it'll have a runtime of 41 minutes. So
Heck yeah.
bring your popcorn, get comfy. It's about the length of a standard television episode, so it'll be fun.
Heck yeah, dude. We're gonna definitely do me and my group are gonna do a watch party for it and talk about it on I think I think it's on a Tuesday, I want to say, that it's being released. I think we're gonna do it on that Wednesday, so it'll be fun. Uh getting that getting that going. What the first question I kind of want to ask you is, you know, this is your second time making something like this. What is kind of the difference between minus the story, obviously, because it's a continuation, but like, what's the difference between you making the first one and you making this one that you're making now?
I mean, there's a lot of differences. I think the biggest one is just the scale. That when the first one came out, it was just going to be a one-off. Like that's all it was going to be. And it was really just to scratch that itch. We made it with $100. I think the most expensive part of that short film was the title card, and beyond that, the cast and crew, they were there just because we were all friends and we came together and we wanted to tell a fun story. And for this second one, it's quite literally 5 times the scale. The budget was a lot bigger. The cast and crew quadrupled in size, and obviously it's reflected in the duration. So it's we kind of wanted to go the Empire Strikes Back route and just blow
Nice.
the first one out of the water.
Heck yeah, dude.
And taking everything that's good about the first one and just expanding on it and inverting it. And yeah, that's just one out of many ways that Kestis is different from the Foretelling.
Right on, man. Well, you touched on having a bigger cast and crew and stuff like that. Can you talk to me a little bit about your creative process in managing like a bigger crew, more actors, more, just everybody, and how to basically how you kind of worked through guiding them to achieve your vision for creating Kestis?
Yeah, Well, I mean, if I think about, we had how many people? I think at one point we had about 40 people
Oh,
in
that's
total
crazy.
working on this film. And there were different departments. So there was, means of communication. There was streamlined communication to each department. And it wasn't like there were 40 people on set at one point. Like, I think the most people we had on set was, was about 30 people. And then the others were just sort of dispersed through pre-production, post-production. Um, but I'm going to quote Quentin Tarantino when he says, "It's not your job as the filmmaker to create a vision. It's your job to have the vision and communicate it, articulate it, and acquire people with the, the necessary talents to make your vision a reality." And so, really, it was just a matter of reaching out to the right people and networking. And once we got to the production aspect of everything, it was my job to make sure that I'm communicating clearly, and making sure everybody on board understands the vision. And I think once everybody understood what we were trying to do, they took it and ran with it. They got excited and they understood
Nice.
what the job was, and they're like, "Dude, we're all for this." And from there, it was just steering the ship and making sure the house doesn't burn down.
Right, for sure. Sure. How much I know you were because I think you popped on a couple of my streams while you were writing it and before you were doing it. How was the process of writing it, and how many I'm curious, how many iterations do you think you went through before it being like, you know what, this is the money right here?
Yeah, I honestly, like, I'd like to be able to say that writing Kestis was hard, and that I had to really dig deep into my soul, find the inspiration, and, like, get into nature and find myself. Like, I could sit there and talk about all that nonsense, but Star Wars is just kind of in my blood. It's just
Yeah.
it's been with me for a very long time. And so when it came down to writing the story, I think I had like 3 drafts before I had one I
Oh,
wanted.
nice. Okay.
And I really just think it's because I have a strong understanding of the lore and the characters I was working with. Because they've been with me for, I'm already obsessed with all these guys. And so
Right.
when it came down to writing the beats and writing what they say, it really just came natural to me. If anything, the trick was um, figuring out what was necessary. Because if I wanted to write like a 3-hour script, I definitely could have.
Yeah, just gone
And
crazy
so
with it.
there was a lot of self-control in the process of writing. And um, I'm a night owl, so a lot of my process was, after work, I'd eat dinner, take a shower, kind of relax, watch a movie. By that point, it's around 10:30, 11 o'clock. And then I'll go to 7-Eleven, get a Monster. Um, I'll kind of shut myself off, away from the world in my bedroom, and and I'd be on my laptop till about 3 in the morning, just doing my research, refreshing my memory, watching episodes of the Clone Wars or Rebels, gameplay from Kestis or the Force Unleashed, just kind of trying to reverse myself into that galaxy, and then writing scenes and rewriting them. And it was a really fun process, very rewarding. But I think it was just after 3 drafts that I realized, yeah, I think we're good to go. And yeah, I think that's the thing I'm going to miss the most is writing Star Wars content, because this will be my last hoorah, as far as Star Wars films are concerned. But yeah, man, that was a fun process. I miss it for sure.
Well, you touched on, being a night owl, and I kind of smiled when you said that, because I'm the exact same way. Like, I do my like 3D printing business during the day, and then at night I'll work on the game that I'm working on. And I wonder what it is about that nighttime like energy. Like I don't know what it is around, like that 10 to, you were saying like 3 o'clock hour. Like I don't know why, like because like I don't know if you're the same way. Like I'm a slow starter when I wake up. Like I like, dude, it takes me like an hour, maybe sometimes even
Yep.
two, depending on how things function. And that's even with coffee. I'm just like, my brain just, I wonder what it is about that, because I feel like a lot of artists kind of have that. Not all
Yeah.
artists, obviously. Some people are morning people, but I wonder what it is about that nighttime energy, man.
Well, I know that at least biologically, people's brains are at their max capacity for what we're capable of at around 2:33 in the morning.
Yeah.
I think the most our brains can percentage wise are allowed to reach is like 12%, and we're pretty close to that at around 3 in the morning, which is typically where we start dreaming after we fall into REM sleep.
Yeah.
So a lot of artists who stay up late, they tend to have their best work late at night, because it's a combination of delirium because they're tired and because their brains are just ready to go. This is game time. So
Got
so
those
I
delusions of grandeur.
yeah, yeah, I'm just all hyped up on Monster Fruit Punch. You know what I'm saying? Like it's
Yeah, I
just
feel you. I
I'm
feel
all
you.
about those late nights.
I've been doing those, not to derail, but I'm really into the ghost. I like the ghost energy because it doesn't have any of
Mm,
that sugar in it and stuff like that. Sometimes the monsters, like there's like the zero sugar monsters too, but
mm.
no, I feel that the energy drink vibe. Kind of getting back on track. I derailed us a little bit, but what would you say, without giving obviously too much away, where Cal's at, like, mentally? Because at the end of the Foretelling, spoilers if you haven't seen it, definitely go check that out if you haven't. But um, he's hopeful. That's like one of the, like, the final things. Like, Seer's like, "How do you feel?" And he goes, "Hopeful." Where is his mindset, and how do you kind of progress his, like, I guess, second arc going forward in this movie?
Um, we take all of his hope away in Kestis. That's basically what we do. We flip him upside down, and he gets attacked by a snow bear.
Nice,
No,
nice.
no, we jump forward about 3 years in Kestis. Initially, it was going to be a 10-year jump. Like Kestis was going to take place 6 months prior to Jedi Survivor, was the
Oh,
initial
okay.
idea. And you can see that actually in the very first teaser trailer. That shifted around when we realized that just the physique of Wesley Hamilton, for one, just didn't didn't line up with the physicality of the character that we had in the script. And so we're like, okay, if we kind of take a step back and we say 3 years after the foretelling, there's a bit more in the story that's believable and y'all will understand that fully when y'all watch it. But basically, where we find Cal is he's he's getting tired of surviving. He's getting
Right.
tired of having to be careful walking around in public, and the Galactic Empire at this point is at their strongest. Um, and as a Jedi, he's going to be in situations where he has opportunities to help people, but it's not the wise thing to do.
Right, right.
Um, and the Obi-Wan Kenobi show touches up on that pretty well. But ultimately, the whole theme of Kestis is who who do you choose to become when you're in a survival situation? And so Cal is going to be put into scenarios. Every character in this film is going to be put in a survival situation where they have to decide who they want to be. Um, because it's tough when you're a character as noble as Cal, and you've got to let things happen. Because in certain situations, it's not the wise thing to do. And so where Cal might be helpful, now he has to have discernment. right? It can't just be this blind, hopeful thing. And that's going to be Cal's struggle in Kestis, is knowing when to hold him and knowing when to fold him. We'll just leave it at that.
Right on, man. Right on. So, we have kind of I mean, obviously I haven't seen it, so I don't know exactly how it's going to go, but to me it seems like from the trailers is you kind of got you got the Mandalorians who show up at the end of the Foretelling. Shout out to Nick, CGS props. And then you have Star Killer, which we'll touch on here in a minute. How did you go about balancing those and make sure like one kind of doesn't take over the other from like a storytelling perspective? Like you're not giving too much to one, you're not giving too much to the other. Like, how did you kind of find that rhythm with it?
For me, it was making sure that both plots depend on each other. It's not that the Cal Kestis and Starkiller stuff is the main story and the Mandalorian stuff is a subplot. It's not like that. It's a short film, so it's going to be a condensed. The story is going to be condensed to the runtime. So what that forces me to do as a writer with a limited budget is to make both plots equal to each other. And in order for that to work, they have to be interwoven. They have to depend on each other. One plot can't exist without the other. So I'm not going to speak too much into that question, unfortunately.
Yeah, definitely
But
don't. I would want to see it on the big screen.
Yeah. But what I can say is that those two plots depend on each other,
Very
and
cool.
how one plot fares completely decides what happens in the secondary plot.
Ooh, nice. Okay.
So
Very cool.
that's just kind of how things play out.
Very cool. Very cool. So, kind of branching into, I feel like one of the big things, is Star Killer. Everybody wants to see Star Killer. I was watching your interview today with Cal Kestis, Wes. Definitely go check out his channel if you haven't, guys. It's a awesome channel, and you know you were talking about everybody wants to see him, like all the Star Wars stuff, all the group, they're like, it's either you want to see Revan or you want to see Star Killer. Like I feel like those are the two that everybody's like,
too.
it's like nobody else matters, we just want to see Revan or Star. So why Star Killer? What was your, when you were writing it, being like, what, I think the story's good, but I think it needs a little dash of Star Killer in it?
Well, I mean, from the get-go, as soon as I started writing, I was like, I understand we have a post-credit scene that's sort of teeing up a Scarata clan sort of thing, but Star Killer's got to be in this. And I knew that just because, one, it's what people wanted, it's what I wanted. And also, like the idea of these two Force users from their own video game franchise, the idea of putting them in the same room together was so intriguing to me, because they have a lot in common, but in many ways, they're two sides of the same coin, where Starkiller is just Cal Kestis who makes all the wrong decisions.
Right.
And Cal Kestis is who he is for the better.
Yeah.
And so the idea of them sharing the screen just felt like the right choice, and the fun came into how do I write the old the Republic Commando characters into a Star Killer story? You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
that whole idea is like, that's so random in its own Legends kind of way, and it seemed so fun. You know what I'm saying?
Heck yeah.
And so, yeah, Star Killer was always part of the plan when we were talking about a Foretelling sequel, and it has entirely to do with the duality of these two video game characters, and how would they handle each other on screen? Would they get along? would they relate to each other? Or are they supposed to be enemies? Especially if it's sort of a canonized adaptation. That was something we did from the very beginning with the Foretelling. Was we didn't want to tell a fan film story that was too much its own thing. There's been a lot of great fan films that have come out in the last 6 months, and some with some fantastic production value. But once you reach the credits, you're kind of sitting there thinking, this was really cool, but why? I don't have a grasp on when in the timeline this fan film takes place. I don't know or really care, frankly, who these characters are, because I don't have a gauge on how they're connected to the galaxy far, far away. And not that has to be the case every time. I just think that if you make the story inclusive by making certain things familiar to the audience, you're going to get that much more connectivity between your story and the audience, because people are going to want to root for your hero. And if your hero just so happens to be a character from their favorite video game, all the more excitement from your audience. And I think that's going to yield better results, but that's just my opinion. But I don't know where I went from there, but ultimately Kestis from the get-go was my personal desire was to just let's wrap up Starkiller's story in a way that satisfies myself. We never got that third game, unfortunately. I don't think we ever will. But I think what we could get before a third game is some form of an adaptation of his character. I think that's much more likely. And so I wanted to play around with that idea and see where that went.
Very cool, man. Very cool. Well, I think the cool thing about, how you're doing Starkiller is that, like, I feel like it kind of aligns with, I know that video has been passed around quite a bit of, like, Sam Witwer talking about, like, how Starkiller, like, they're like, oh, he's overpowered. He does all this crazy stuff, pulling Star Destroyers out of the sky and, getting thrown out into, like, the vacuum of space and getting stabbed by a lightsaber, still wrecking people, and stuff like that. But he kind of saw it as those were more like Starkiller was more of like a legend. Like he was like being told as like these myths and stuff like that to kind of like build him up. And whereas I feel like you're kind of toning him down, but not toning him down in a bad way, making him more like believable and like realistic, kind of like how I feel like, dude, I love The Force Unleashed, and like it's like probably one of my favorite Star Wars video games, if not my favorite Star Wars video game. But they're cranked to 11, whereas like Jedi Survivor and Fallen Order feels like a more like realistic fight against the Empire, whereas like Starkiller's just like everybody dies, like you're gonna, he's like Ivan Drago would be like, you will lose,
Yeah.
So I thought that was really cool how you kind of spun it and made him more of like an Inquisitor or something along those sort of lines, instead of like kind of the legend that he would. It's what it reminds me of is like the 2003 like Tarkovsky Clone Wars versus like the actual Clone Wars that we got. Like Tarkovsky's is awesome and I love it. It's amazing. But the we got Mace Windu speed bagging, droids and stuff like that. Yeah. Whereas like the Clone Wars, the 2008 and on version kind of made it more realistic in that sense. So I think that's kind of cool that you went that route with it, and I'm excited to see, how it goes in the film.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great way to put it, is you have different types of art forms, and especially in the animation world, animation has to be more, I don't know if it has to be, but most of the time there's a better audience reaction if the animation is more dynamic and explosive. And so, and even for the Clone Wars, when you watch Ahsoka deflecting lasers and she's swinging her lightsaber and all that stuff, you're like, hey, she's pretty quick, she's pretty agile with that lightsaber. But then when you watch Ahsoka in her live action show and you're seeing younger Ahsoka and the flashbacks and all that stuff, and you can already see the difference. It's not the same thing, but it doesn't have to be, right? It's different mediums.
Yeah.
Ahsoka doesn't have to be as quick as she is in an animated series. I don't even know if that's physically possible. Right?
Yeah, I don't think so.
Because you're using blender tools and and keyframes, and those are ones and zeros. It's not biology. It's not and so that same idea applies to Kestis and the Force Unleashed video games. Is sure, we could have spent another 10 grand making Starkiller look exactly how he did in the video game, but what does that really accomplish if his character sucks? I might as well flip on a Zack Snyder movie and waste 3 hours of my life. Like I think what characters really, I think what audiences really want is their favorite characters to be respected.
Yeah, for sure.
Is the heart of the issue. And so, and that's what I want for myself.
Yeah.
And so Galen Marek at his core is a very powerful individual who doesn't understand his power, and he has an identity crisis. That is a scary individual. Someone with a lot of power who doesn't know he has a lot of power, and he has no idea what kind of person he wants to be. Don't mess with that guy.
And then he's basically trained by the devil, essentially.
And he's basically trained by the devil. Like, dude, like that is a compelling character. And
yeah, for sure.
That's exactly what we kind of tapped in. Yeah. That's one of the core things we explore with in Kestis, is that aspect of Starkiller is preserved and well taken care of. So for people who are fans of Starkiller and fans of the video games, don't expect Zack Snyderisms, but expect your favorite character to be respected as a person. And I hope that our adaptation of the character, our rendition of this very popular character, is satisfying for you, and that you can get some closure on the sequel we probably will never see. So that's really where my heart is, where for Starkiller, because I'm a fan of the character just like you guys. I played the video games on the Wii. That was my experience with Starkiller.
Oh, you got the Wii version.
I played him on the Wii, bro.
Yeah.
That was my video game life, bro. I only had the Wii.
I'm playing through that one right now. Actually, I have it on the Switch, which is still the same thing, the Wii version. I was like, I had no idea that they were different. I was like, where does this in the
no, they're different, and there's even a versus battle level where you can play as Boba Fett fighting Galen Marek and Rom Coda and all that stuff. It's dope.
I don't know why they don't just add that to every single Star Wars video. They did that with another side tangent. They did that with the Revenge of the Sith game, where you could play as like all the different characters, Mortal Kombat style, in Revenge of the Sith. I'm just like, that needs to be in Fallen Order. We need to have
that would be
Jedi
awesome.
Survivor, everything.
That would be really cool, like an Injustice Star Wars kind of a thing.
Yeah, just have it like a separate game mode. They had the in Jedi Survivor, I forget what it is, like the battle mode, like the battle chess, where you're like doing like picking your squad against somebody else and stuff like that. And I can't tell you how many hours I spent playing. I didn't even play. I was just at the cantina playing that game, not even playing the actual game.
Yeah.
So, no, man, but that's super cool. I think that's good. You said it in the in Wes's podcast that how you coined it was you're doing to Starkiller what the Mandalorian did to Luke at the end of season 2, where we kind of got, speaking as like, Luke's my favorite person. Like, we got the Luke that we always wanted to see, he it felt like there was like a level of respect there. And judging from what I've seen you do and the foretelling, I feel like you're going to do the exact same thing with Starkiller. So I'm excited to see what you kind of bring to the table with that.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Luke Skywalker, and that was something me and Wesley Hamilton got really excited about in terms of the lightsaber duel. Um, for for eagle-eyed fans, if you really focus on the choreography, everything that Starkiller does, down to the way he blocks, the way he attacks, his choreography is replicated from Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader's hallway scene from Rogue One and Mandalorian season 2. The same exact moves, just instead of him deflecting lasers, he's blocking lightsaber attacks. And so, and because ultimately, a lot of Starkiller's character was based on the what if scenario of what if Luke had turned to the dark side, and that was kind of the idea behind Starkiller's character from the video games. And so
Yeah, I believe
we took
that's how they pitched it. That's how they
Mhm,
pitched the game.
mhm. So we took that whole idea and ran with it. It's like, okay, that's
Heck yeah.
exactly how he fights then. He's gonna fight
Nice.
he's gonna fight like Luke Skywalker with Sith training.
That's sick.
Um
Well,
and
you
yeah.
basically answer my other, because I was going to talk to you about the, the fight choreography, because that's always interesting to me how you kind of did. So you took Luke with Vader and kind of made the Star Killer. Is there any other, like, I know Nick Allard has been posting a lot of like his stunts and like extra behind the scenes. I know there's a lot of like Kurosawa and samurai films. Did you pull from any of that as well as Luke and Vader and what they did?
Yeah, I mean, the visuals of Kurosawa has always inspired me. I mean, the fact that the lightsaber duel takes place on a beach, for one, is a big that's a big old Japanese samurai trope. Um,
Also, it's super epic.
yeah, yeah, I was that was something that was also in the very first draft. Was I really want to replicate the duel on Genryu Island in Samurai 3. Those are some old samurai films if you haven't seen those, with Toshiro Mifune. Um, and I don't know if you've watched any of the latest YouTube videos I've pumped out, but there's actually some Kurosawa um, uh, sketchings on Starkiller's back
Oh,
from the Seven Samurai. So their banner from that film is actually tapered onto Starkiller's back plate.
oh,
Um,
sick. Yeah, I'm gonna have to go check. I haven't seen that. I'll have to go check that out.
yeah, and let me think. What else is there? As far as the choreography is concerned, we were really leaning heavily into the Luke and Vader aspect, and trying to balance where Cal Kestis' skill level would be at around this time. Um, it's not like a prequel lightsaber duel, so they're not going to be sitting there spinning and jumping around and all that stuff. This is a bit more of a controlled, measured, agile, smooth lightsaber duel.
Nice.
So each attack, each parry is predetermined and measured, carefully placed. It's not this super flashy, super fast kind of a thing. This is a real sword fight.
Right.
Um, and we tried to respect the realistic nature of longsword combat when we were choreographing this duel.
Hell yeah.
Um, so not a whole lot of Kurosawa isms in the sword fight itself,
Mhm.
but I think the nature of Kurosawa's movies and the inspiration was always with us on set,
Right.
because
Right.
ultimately that's where a lot of George Lucas's Star Wars comes from.
Yeah. Well, it reminds me, when we were talking a little bit um, earlier about how you were saying like you want to add like your own kind of a spin on things, but you don't want to make it too much. Like
Mhm.
it's not in the universe. Like you're. I know that Star Wars fans go crazy when George is mentioned. And John's a big proponent of that. Be like, man, every time I'm directing something or writing something, I'm like, is that kind of how George would align it? that what George would kind of do, but not trying to copycat George, but just trying to keep his spirit and his, influence within John's own creative domain. And it kind of seems like that's what you're doing with, George, with Kurosawa. I don't remember the other director that you had mentioned for those samurai movies, but it seems like you kind of are having all those in mind while also kind of telling your own story. And I think that's a good recipe for a good story, is so you're following what's done before, not copying it, and then kind of taking that and like taking it to the next thing and paying kind of homage to it, which is cool.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of there's a part of me where it's like, as a fan, I want writer directors to respect George Lucas's way of telling stories and take those things into consideration. But I don't know if we really know what that means. I mean, we understand George Lucas isms.
Yeah.
Dialogue, Star Wars dialogue is designed to be outwardly emotional. You're supposed to feel the characters without necessarily hearing them. They wear their hearts on their sleeve. The dialogue is going to reflect those things. He thinks visually. What can we say without saying it, and instead slap an alien or an ideal or a symbol that reflects that message? Those are George Lucas isms. But where do those come from? And they come from the movies that inspired him.
Yeah.
And so, yes, as the writer and director, I wanted to respect George Lucas Star Wars. But to me, what that meant was I needed to be inspired by what inspired George Lucas.
100%.
So before I started writing Kestis, and I actually did this same thing when I was writing the Foretelling, I watched all of Kurosawa's movies. I watched every episode of the Flash Gordon serials from 1938. I watched like a butt ton of John Ford films as well, all the way back to Bucking Broadway from 1922, I believe it was. I'm watching all these movies that George watched when he was a kid, that he spoke into inspiring Star Wars for him. 2001: A Space Odyssey is my favorite movie of all time, hands down. I watch that movie a couple times a year, every year for the last decade. It's number one for me.
Nice.
Well, one thing George Lucas says, Star Wars is Flash Gordon, but bigger, and 2001, but faster.
Yeah.
And that's the formula. That's it right there. And so what Kestis is it's Flash Gordon with a droid on his shoulder, and he is in a spaceship going planet to planet, trying to survive. That's Kestis right there. And so while I want to respect George's way of doing things, I will never be able to replicate that because I'm not George Lucas. So what's the next best thing? Let's find inspiration in the things that inspired George.
For sure. Yeah.
And so that was the process going in, and that'll continue to be the process as I continue to make movies. Because guess what? Those movies and serials are freaking great. They're amazing. I would encourage you to check them out. You can watch Flash Gordon on YouTube for free.
Just type most of those older movies. You can pretty much just type them all in on YouTube, and they have the whole shebang.
Yeah, they're great, man.
But I think you kind of touched on it too. Like that George had these kind of like isms, and like you're like, oh, we like wanted to take inspiration from George. You hear these guys saying it. And I think it's also George was very much I'm going to tell the story the way like I want to tell. Like we're not going to get into like the amount of hate he got for the prequels and all that stuff, but he was like massacred for making those movies the way he wanted to make them. Like he was like, this is the way I wanted to tell the story. I'm not trying to tell it for little Susie down the street or Joe up the river. I'm not trying to tell, like I'm just trying to tell the story that I want to tell. And I think that's important. And then of course, obviously too, the hero's journey, you can kind of see the the whole thing. A lot of movies have those, but I mean, I feel like you touched on it. Is just like staying true to yourself and like what influences you, and then just like writing the story, like writing a story that's worth telling, not because it fits an agenda or not because it fits this or that. And we're not going to get into that either of, the movies today kind of, and how they're all trying to fit some sort of, they're trying to push something out instead of just telling the story that needs to be told. They're just trying to appease as much people as they can. But again, I don't want to derail us from talking about Kestis. But so you played Starkiller, and you also played, am I saying his name right? It's Zenitaru? Is that how you say it?
Yeah, Zenutaru.
Zenutaru. What kind of mindset did you have to get in to kind of get yourself in the Starkiller kind of mode? And then how did he kind of differ from playing Zenitaru?
I definitely got bigger for Starkiller. I probably gained about 15 pounds of muscle preparing for the role of Starkiller. I've lost a good bit of that muscle now, but I beefed up a bit more in comparison to Zenutaru. A lot of my prep for Zen was calisthenics and meditation, a lot of running and pull-ups. For Starkiller, I really I know on set when I was in costume, I'm not going to say I was method, but I did try to refer to myself in my mind as Galen Marek and to try to think about stuff from the video game that he went through as if those were my personal life experiences, and trying to pull that anger out for each take. And so I think there's some behind the scenes footage of me before each take, and I'm like growling and I'm like throwing my fists in the air and like just and flexing and just trying to get my blood pumping before each take. And so I think Starkiller was just a lot angrier and physical in comparison to Zenutaru. Zenutaru was different in the sense that I had to be Jedi-like in just about every way, because Zenutaru is not like Starkiller on the spectrum of light side versus dark side. Zenutaru is a Jedi through and through, but he's a faded Jedi. He's lost his way. He's developed a fundamentalism, a legalism in his theology as a Jedi.
Yeah.
And so in every way, in how I prepped for the role, it had to be light side driven. I needed composure. I needed to be Zen, right?
Right.
And then when it came time to shoot the scenes in the foretelling, I would hold my breath like for a long time until I had to like talk to people, and then I would like let go and talk to. But all those things to sort of like exhaust myself, so that like I would start to look a bit pale, and like there was just something off about me. And so a little bit of depriving kind of helped.
Right.
Playing Zen, because he's isolated and he's mentally not where he should be.
Yeah.
And sort
Well,
of
he has a narrative in his mind, and that's kind of it's
Mhm.
driven him to basically isolation, So I feel like you conveyed that pretty well. And you could tell in the thing that he was just like, he wasn't trying to be evil and do all those like bad things. It just like in his mind, that was the narrative that he had to do in order to, bring peace to the galaxy,
Mhm. Yeah, false sense of purpose, delusions of grandeur.
Yeah. Delusions of grandeur in like the worst way, honestly.
Yeah,
But,
pretty rough.
But the last question I kind of have for you, and then we can see if anybody else has questions, or if you have anything you want to talk about, we can kind of go down that route. You mentioned that this is kind of, as of right now, the last Star Wars thing that you're going to work on for a while. Um, what do you have? You don't have to go into crazy detail, but like, what's something that's like piquing your curiosity for like the next step in your artist kind of career?
Yeah, my next project after this, the goal at least is to make it a theatrical release.
Mhm.
It'll be its own thing, completely original.
Very
Um,
cool.
Trying to get away from YouTube.
Okay.
Um, and I've been writing the script for over a year now.
Oh, nice.
Um, so it's underway. It's slow moving because I've got a bunch of other things happening, but
For sure.
uh, the goal for 2024 is to finish the script, make a torch film, a short, like a 10-minute version of that script, start shopping around for producers and buyers and get this thing in theaters.
Heck yeah, dude. That's awesome. I love hearing
Yeah.
that. Um, do you have anything that you would like to kind of add? That's kind of all the questions that I had for you. We're sitting pretty good. We're at about 46 minutes. So um, if you have
Yeah,
anything you want to add, go for it, man.
yeah, just when January 30th comes around, guys, get your popcorn out, get comfy, get your blanket, get your friends together, get your Cal Kestis action figure out. Take some selfies with your friends, take a picture of the TV screen, post it on Instagram, hashtag Kestis, all that good stuff. And let's get the word out, because I think what we've got here is something really special. This is for you guys. This is primarily for me, because this was something I've wanted to see for a long time, but it was absolutely with us in mind. So this is my gift to y'all, and I hope you guys enjoy it. I think you will, but uh, I think there's a lot here for you guys to love.
Heck yeah! If you guys haven't gone and seen the trailer yet, I have it linked down below. Definitely go check out that because it's pretty cool. Also, like, not sponsored, but definitely go check out his merch too, because I gotta see if I can like show it better. It's kind of hard to get that
Yeah, go to gen1merch.com, and we actually have a whole bunch of Kestis themed shirts
Oh yeah.
available. And from what I'm told, the material is very nice,
Oh
not
yeah.
itchy. It's the same material that the Plo Koon shirt right here that you're wearing there. That's the same kind of material there. Why don't you tell them about that material and how you like the shirt and all that stuff?
Yeah, man. Well, because I got sensitive skin, man. So like it's kind of, that's why I told you, I was like, I'm gonna buy one, and then like if I like it, I'll go back and I'm gonna get that Fisto one. And I'm kind of eyeballing the Jarl Poof, man, because I don't know what it is about him, man, but
You're
I
too
like it.
fun, bro. You gotta get yourself some URL poof, bro.
Well,
Some Opo Rankuses. Come on, man.
yeah, I just see every time I see him in the Death Star making the whatever, the soup or the chili that he's making with the Emperor.
The robot chick.
But no, but it's good. It in the I tend to have like a longer torso and like really wide shoulders. That's kind of like my build. So like washing, it's also another thing that we were kind of talking about beforehand. Is like most of my stuff fits when it's good. Like when I just get it, I'll wash it, and then like my shoulders will be really tight, or like my waist. So kind of like when I lift my hands up, it'll like raise above like my waist level. And it didn't do this. I think I'm on like my second wash now. And it seems fine. So yeah, definitely if you guys are looking for more awesome Star Wars merch, for t-shirts or Kestis merch, definitely go check that out. We have that link down below as well. We have all his links, his YouTube, his merch, the trailer, all that fun stuff. So definitely go check that out if you guys are interested in that. So, but yeah,
Sweet.
man, thank you for coming on and chatting with me. I'm sure we'll connect again and talk about some more Star Wars stuff, whether it be something you're doing, something that's happening in the world of Star Wars, whatever it is. I'm sure we'll cross paths again. But yeah, thank you so much again for coming on.
Absolutely, man. Thanks for the invite.
Sure. And thank you guys for watching. And as always, may the force be with you, and I'll catch